Welcome to Strength for Generations, the go-to podcast for Christian families who want to build strength, restore energy, and deepen connection with God at the center. Hi, I'm Krista Baker, Christian health coach, wife, mom, and co-founder of Baker Family Fitness. Have you tried it all? The diets, the workouts, the supplements, yet still feel stuck? Do you find yourself too drained to connect with your family, lead with purpose, or live out the calling God's placed on your life? Then you're in the right place. I'm here to help you honor God with your health and bring peace back to the process. To simplify what it means to build strength in your body, renew your mind, and care for your spirit, all without losing precious time with your family. Each week, you'll be encouraged by God's Word, inspired by real stories, and equipped with the tools you need to succeed. With trusted experts and conversations that help you grow stronger in body, mind, and spirit. So grab your coffee or your ribeye, and let's do this His way. Welcome back to the Strength for Generations podcast. I'm your host, Krista Baker. It's nice to have you guys here again today. Now, I do want to share a little disclaimer before we get into things. I've actually gone back and forth on whether or not I was going to share this episode, but God has been like, you're doing it. So here I am doing the thing that He's asked me to do. He's been asking me to do this for a very, very long time. It's not necessarily an easy conversation, but it's an honest one. It's not just about religion. It's about healing. It's about identity. And it's about what happens when God keeps showing up, even when you're running or I'm running. So if you've ever really lived in that survival mode or felt unwanted, if you ever believed you had to be strong because it was not safe to be soft, this episode is for you. I do talk open and honest about certain topics that might trigger you. And I really hope and pray that that doesn't happen. I pray that this story brings hope to you, to your life, to your family, whoever's listening right now. I do share some really hard stuff. So just be mindful as you listen in today. I do appreciate you being here. It's not about me blaming anybody, one person, one relationship, one season of life. I do speak about family. I do speak about relationships. I speak about people who have hurt me, but I also speak about how God has brought healing where there was just once so much pain. And a lot of these relationships have been, very healed, a lot of deep healing over time. Some of them have required some boundaries, and other parts of these relationships have required forgiveness without reconciliation. So this is part of my life. I know we all have a story, and we all carry things that have shaped us, moments that have left marks, words that have stayed longer than they should have. So I don't want to shock you today. I just want you to understand that my goal is to bring you hope. I'm going to take you back a little bit into my past, and I'm going to share my story about how God really came into my life. Like I said in the intro, just in order to bring hope. And I really pray that this message helps you feel like maybe you need to be seen too. Just a little bit of a background. I have personally struggled with my identity for a very, very long time. From a very young age, I actually struggled with feeling like I was wanted or chosen. I was the third girl in my family. I do come from a large family, like extended large family. But in my own home, we had a boy, then there was two girls, and I was that third girl that came, where I was told I was supposed to be a boy. I often had a joke made about me like, oh, Christ, another girl, and that's how I got my name. And that hurt. That message really settled quietly in my heart, and it was something I held on to for a very long time. I felt like I was supposed to be a boy, like I had to earn a place, like I had to prove my worth. So I was a tomboy. I had a red BMX bike. I know I look back right now, and a lot of those things were kind of cool and fun, but definitely more of your tomboy type of girl. I'm still a little bit, even now at this stage, but working on my feminine side for sure. So it really shaped a lot about how I perceived things. I definitely felt a lot of times I need to protect myself. So I'm going to take you back a little further now. Okay, I grew up in a Catholic home. So we did have faith. We had faith in our home. Church was a part of our routine. I'm pretty sure I was baptized like the Sunday after I was born. It was like, that was tradition. It was something that we did. And I actually really enjoyed going to church. I liked going. I felt something different. I was always really curious. I never felt like I was alone, but I was very lonely. But my experience with church was, it did become like it was part of a routine. And it was more of it felt more like pressure. Like there was just these rules and expectations, and you do this and you do this and you do this. And it felt very strict and rigid. I didn't know God the way I know Him now. I didn't feel connected to Him. I felt like there was always something else out there, but I didn't really feel connected to Him, obviously, like I do now. And I remember I remember thinking to myself, there was a lot of different people in my life that proclaimed to be Christian, or they would talk about God a lot, but their actions were what I would say are ungodly right now. But they were so it distorted how I felt about God. It distorted how I was like, well, this is what you get from God. I want nothing to do with him. That's how I felt. But I do remember going through the different sacraments, like as in a Catholic church or in my Catholic school where, you get your first communion. I did have a good interaction with a deacon at our church. I remember when I was a little girl, but still like a lot of confusion around religion, around faith. It just felt very, very rigid, very strict, and very like do this or else type of thing. So that definitely led to some very big challenges. I did have a lot of challenges growing up. So things were not always so great. There was a lot of hurt. There was a lot of pain. There was a lot of anger. There was alcohol. There was definitely a lot of abuse. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of a preference right now that those things have been healed. Okay. So I don't want you to linger and think about that because I don't myself, but it is part of the story, which is why I'm sharing that with you today. And I feel like God really wants me to do that. So a lot of that pain, a lot of that the one might call trauma led me to feeling very alone. I remember being like 10 years old and walking, like my legs were so sore from biking so much that I'd have to walk my bike at a point and I'd be like, I don't even know where I'm supposed to go right now. I did have a couple good friendships, which I'm very grateful for, and I still have those ones. But I definitely struggled with trust. I didn't really have a lot of friends that I could trust to share what was happening in my life. And that took me into my teenage years, which led me to being extremely rebellious. I didn't know what it was like to really, like I knew what it was like to feel loved. I felt like a lot of love from my family, but I didn't know what true love really meant. It was like a distorted kind of look on what love was. So the hypocrisy and all those things like really pushed me away. And that led to me like falling into destructive teenage years, like drinking, drugs, giving my body away, doing things that I really wish I never did. But I'm glad that I am happy where I am now, but I know that those choices that I made back then were made because I was so confused. I was trying to figure it out and I didn't know where to find that thing that I was supposed to be figuring out. I didn't know where I was supposed to be. So those teenage years were very chaotic. Like I said, I was partying, drugs, I was house hopping, I was staying at people's houses, like just staying on my friends' couches to really find somewhere to to feel safe. I actually really struggled in school. I did not graduate until I was 19. So I was in and out of school. I mean, grade 10, I got 2 credits because I was pretty messed up and I was really just trying to survive. I was not living. I stopped doing like any sports. I stopped doing anything that like, I didn't even know what I wanted to do or who I was. I just tried to find somewhere to fit in. So one of the reasons why I left school was unfortunately, when I was 17, I was hurt. I was sexually abused by someone, and that really, really, really messed me up. It really distorted how I trusted anyone. And, I went to court for it. All was done and all became better, but it really it took me until probably last year to fully heal from this situation that I was faced or was put in when I was such a young girl. And so it really changed how I started to see people. I did not trust anyone easily. I never felt safe. I felt like I was just always trying to protect myself. This is when I learned to be like really strong. I actually learned how to be really strong when I was very little, but this took me over the edge where I was just like, walls were up, no one's coming in, nobody out there like loves me. I am not wanted. I am not good enough. All of those things, all those survival kind of techniques or survival, like even words I spoke over myself was like, I'm just garbage. So I always felt like I needed like an exit plan. Obviously I needed to control. Like I always like lived on my own or found somewhere to do that. I always worked because I just didn't want to rely on anyone else to, have to give me money so that I can go and do the things that I need to do. But I continued to push forward no matter what. Like a lot of people when I was younger, they would say things to me like, I don't know how you're so strong. That caused a lot of issues because I've had to work through a place where when I don't see people being strong. I'm like, why are you so weak? I don't get it, right? Which isn't very kind. But I definitely relied on myself only. I did have a lot of really amazing people that came into my life that I can, I know they were miracles that God placed into my life, and He put them there for a reason. And I'm grateful for every moment that I had with each and every one of those people. But then definitely, led into some destructive relationships, like stayed in things because I was so confused about love. I was so, like I knew I was like a good person, and I thought like, hey, like I'm nice, all these different things, but I never really felt like worthy. A lot of stuff was just really out of fear. And I accepted a lot of chaos because it felt familiar. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit to, I'd say maybe, like mid-20s. I actually started dating women. So this is a part of me that not a lot of people know about, but that was because I had come out of so many destructive relationships, and I ended up bartending in Toronto at a lesbian bar, which I'll be honest with you, those years were really fun. I had so much fun, and I did meet a lot of really incredible people. Maybe you're listening right now and you know who you are, but I feel like that was something that came into my life because I did not know who I was, and I did not feel safe around men because men hurt me all the time. And so I fell into the arms of like, well, this can't hurt, right? And it really was hurting me, what God wanted for my life. And then I met my husband. He came into my life very quickly. Like, not quickly. Well, I guess once we met, everything happened so fast. It was like hard and fast. The way I fell in love with him was so intense. And you got to think at this point, I don't have a relationship with God. I'm confused. I'm like, I've studied all the world religions. I became a yoga instructor in my 20s. So in order to do that, you have to study the Gita. I was like all about the astrology and the new age stuff. It was like, well, the universe is providing. Well, I know that to be different now, but that's what I believed back then because I knew I wasn't alone, because there was moments where it would be like something would help me feel warm or safe or protected, or, hey, I probably should have died in that situation, but I'm still alive. And so there was like so many of those times kind of in my 20s where like, okay, great. So I then met my husband. I was 30, and literally within 7 weeks I was like, we started kind of rooming together. And by 7 months we bought a condo together. By 11 months we were pregnant with Casey. We were so in love, so hard, so fast. It was so good, but it was very destructive too, because we didn't have people that had gone before us that taught us what it was like to have a healthy relationship. We just knew that we loved each other a lot. We also knew what we didn't want in our lives, but we were just like, we loved a lot of the same things, which was really cool. And I'm really grateful for that relationship. But he, that's where Mike and I really managed to we were called like the Spanish lovers because of how fiery we were and how feisty we would fight. And, I was a little bit chaotic too, for sure. But we got married, we moved, we got married, and then we wanted to have a second child. And I went through 2 miscarriages in the middle of that. And I had Bailey. And when I had Bailey, like that kid came into my life, and she was just like, Casey was just so calm and sweet and just easy and just a really, really amazing kid. Like she taught me what love was. And then Bailey came in, and Bailey, just the way Bailey loves me and the way she's like so bold and strong and fierce, like things just got so amazing. However, Mike and I were really struggling. We just did not know how to communicate. And we got to a point where Bailey was about 8 months old. Casey was 4. And I was like, that's it. Like, this is enough. Like, don't even come home. And so this is where we really like met God. I at this point was trying to find a way to reconnect with Mike. I was like really struggling with my own like body image, with like the changes that I've had to make like as a mom, and then feeling very alone a lot. Not really having a lot of friends that had kids that I lived around. Like I still was trying to find a community. I didn't have anybody really in my life that I had neighbors, but a lot of them were very nice anyways. So it was like kind of really destructive relationships everywhere I went. And then trying to find, Mike and I to really connect. And so I was like, well, maybe I'll plan like a date night. And so in my mind, I had this plan for us to go on this date night. And then something happens. We had a falling out that was it was bad enough for me to be like, please don't come home. I don't want to be around you. Like, I don't even want to be, I can't look at you, which we mended that. So he came back and he was like, a couple days later says to me, hey, I really think we should go on a date. I'm like, well, I don't want to go out with you. I was being pretty like, no, I don't. You don't deserve to be with me at this point. I was so upset. And he's like, no, I got us tickets to go to a concert because that's one of the things that we love doing together. And he's like, I got us tickets to go to a concert. And he told me the date. It was November 11th. And I was like, I know where it is. And he's like, there's no way. I'm like, yep, it's the Lettuce concert at the Trough in Buffalo on November 11th. He's like, how did you know that? I'm like, because that was the concert. I was going to buy tickets for us to go to this concert last week before this incident happened. And then at that point, we were just like, we didn't know God, right? But we're like, okay, fine, I'll go on a date with you. And he had covered everything. He got the kids covered. Now, and I was a strictly nursing mom, and Bailey was only 8 months old. So we had to really coordinate this one. My friend came and she was like, I'll just hold your baby and let her cry as much as possible. Like, she tried everything. So my kids just refused bottles. So we went and we got there. And I mean, I'm at the point where I'm sitting at this restaurant and I don't even want to be sitting beside him, but I'm trying and I'm working on this. And so we hang out. We walk over to the club to see the band, and we get up there and the doorman was like, hey, there's the band's not here yet. They're probably not going to go on till like 11. And I was like, I have to be home by then. I needed to get back. But we're like, well, we're already here. So he's like, don't bother coming in. I'm go, okay, fine. So we went back outside to go back to the restaurant that we were hanging out at before. So we still have now another hour and a half to kill. And as we were walking down the stairs, there was 4 guys walking towards us. Now, I'm a pretty chatty person. I'm friendly. I like to share if I the door is closed or something's going on, I'll tell you to not waste your time. So I said to the guys, I was like, hey, the band's not even here yet, but this place over here has got some good specials on drinks. We're headed back there. They're like, oh, okay, cool. So the 4 of them and Mike and I started kind of walking together towards that same restaurant. And one of them's like, oh yeah, like I came from, and then they said a city. Okay. And then the other one said a city, like in Canada. We are now in Buffalo in the States. And they're like, oh, I came from so-and-so, and I came from this town, and I came from this town. And one of them says the town that we live in. I'm like, oh, we live there too. What street do you live on? And then he says the street's name. Well, it's the exact same street that I live on. And I'm like, no way. Like, trying to picture where their house is. It's on our street. And I was like, we live on that same street. We're like, oh, how cool. And then my husband recognizes this gentleman from a birthday party that one of our older daughter was at, like the weekend before. And so we start chatting with them. And, my husband is a lover of music. He understands music a lot deeper than I do. I like music, but I don't nerd out on music the way he does. And he's like, kind of cool that how these guys know this band. This band isn't a big band. Have you heard of the band Lettuce? So they start chatting a little bit about music. We get back to the restaurant. We go back, sit up at the bar. Now these guys are all sitting at a table. And Mike's sitting beside me and he says, I'm going to send around a beer over to those guys. And I'm looking at him like, we are on mat leave. We don't have any money, and we're going to send drinks over to a bunch of guys we don't know. I was like, okay. So he does it. And at that point, there's probably about 12 guys now down sitting at the table. And they're like, come on over. And he went down. I stayed at the bar because I still didn't want to really be beside him. I didn't want to be with him. And eventually I was set my stubborn side away, and I went down and I sat with them and just started chatting with them. Now we're like, how do you guys all know each other? And they're like, oh, we play on a worship band. And I was like, what's worship? And they're like it's, explain what worship was to me. I'd never even heard worship at this point. I was raised in a Catholic church, and it was so different, like the music. So I was like, okay, cool. Like they play in a band together is what I'm thinking. And they're like, oh, it's from a church. And they tell us about this church that I see from the highway every time I drive by to get to my house. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, I think even right before that, Mike and I had started talking about maybe going to a church or something. We were trying to fix a lot of our pain, and we didn't know where to go. So the guys we ended up hanging out with them all night, and it was really cool. I saw Mike exchange numbers with one of them, and I was like, oh, my husband never does anything like that. That's kind of neat. And then they said to us nonchalantly, they're like, hey, why don't you guys come to church next Sunday and have a coffee? I was blown away that you can have coffee in church, my friends. I don't know if you've experienced this or not, but I was not allowed chewing gum as a little girl in church. So to come to church and have a coffee, you're speaking my love language at this point. So I was like, yep, I'm coming. So that was on a Wednesday. The following Sunday, Mike and I ended up going to this church. We sat in the back. I was really nervous because they're like, oh, you can drop your kids into the kids ministry. And I had like trust issues galore when it comes to that because I always think like, you hear these stories in a Catholic church that these kids were abused or that kind of stuff. And I was never hurt in a church, but I was hurt by people that went to church. So I had this distorted like mindset around people caring for my kids. I'm a bit of a mama bear. And I know I'm a mama bear, especially because of the hurt and the pain that I've suffered in my own life. So I do drop her off into the daycare and I'm sitting in the back seat with Bailey in a stroller. So I still had her in that little car seat and I'm sobbing. I'm like, why do I feel so emotional? I like look around and people have their hands up and I was like, what is happening right now? Like, this is so kind of weird. It was weird, but it was very peaceful and it was very beautiful. And I just kept weeping. I was like, I got to go to the bathroom. I'm like going to just bawl right now. And I did. I went to the bathroom and this woman saw me crying in the bathroom and she just came to me and she's like, can I pray for you? It was the first time someone prayed for me. She put her hand, she's like, can I put my hand on your shoulder? She puts her hand on my shoulder. And I was like, the words that she spoke over my life, I'll never forget. They were so beautiful. They were so loving. It was like so cool. Like I've never felt that kind of love. I felt so seen and I almost felt like I was being held at that time. So we kept going back. We would go back every week. We would get in the car and fight, like I think a lot of people do after church. I know I experienced that as a little girl pretty much every time we left church. And it was like, it would feel like it was like, now I know it's like an attack, but I remember being like, well, that doesn't make sense. Why did we go there if like we're going to leave and act this way, But we started building some relationships, which is really cool. And I started feeling like things started getting like a little bit softer in our life. And we definitely kept going back. A couple of weeks later, they talk about baptisms. And I looked at Mike and I'm like, I really think I need to get baptized. And I don't know, I had never even seen an adult baptism. I think there was like videos of people being baptized, but I didn't know what to expect. I'd never really been to one. So I was walking in like, okay, I got to do a class. They told me I got to write out a testimony and, we figured it out. So when we got baptized, Mike and I actually got baptized on the same day. And I'm going to leave his part of the story because I will be interviewing him soon, and for him to be able to share his walk with God. And our walk is very different, but I remember that day so clearly. Mike and I have this saying where we just say there's not a cloud in the sky. The day we had Casey, there was not a cloud in the sky. It was beautiful. I can still remember what the air smelled like. The day we had Bailey, the exact same thing. It was so beautiful. There was not a cloud in the sky. And the day we got married, there was not a cloud in the sky. It actually rained like crazy the day before. And the day we got married. And then now, when the day before Bailey turned 1, we decided to get baptized. And I think a lot of people at that point are planning their baby's first birthday. I'm like, well, I'm going to have her birthday party, but I'm just going to have to wait till the next weekend because this is the baptism and I'm going to go and get baptized. And there was just not a cloud in the sky. And I remember feeling a little bit nervous because I had to speak in front of people, which, I think as I've grown in my career, I feel more convicted and more confident to speak in front of others, but I was really nervous. And I went first. So there was a couple of us that got baptized that day and I was first in the tank. So remember, I haven't seen a baptism before. So I'd get in there and I said to people, I'm like, what do I do? And they're like, whatever the Holy Spirit wants you to do. And I'm like, okay. I still didn't even really know what that meant, to be honest with you. I felt like I almost like double dunked when I was in that tank. And I just stayed in the tank. I didn't get out. I just had my hands up, my eyes closed, and I just stayed there. And I felt this level of peace that I had never felt in my life fall all over me. I could cry right now because I know what that felt like. Like literally, my eyes were washed clean. I remember saying to Mike a couple weeks after our baptism, like, the wandering eye is a real issue for a lot of people. Christian or not, I don't care. We all have this thing where the flesh just wants to go in a way that desires things outside of what you have in front of you. And I didn't really like check out other men or women. Remember, I'm still struggling with looking at other women and seeing beauty in them and not myself. So I remember a couple weeks after saying to Mike, I'm like, anytime I look at anyone, I feel like throwing up. Like it was like I literally felt like throwing up. And like, it was like my eyes were so clean. My heart started to feel so much softer. And I have a very soft heart. I'm a very loving person. I love so deeply. Sometimes it hurts. I've learned to control and build boundaries around that, but that is like who I am. And I've always been like that. Like I care about people so much, but my heart started to feel like I wasn't. And so that started to really, like it's like these chains just kept getting like broken off around it. And then my mind just felt clearer. I felt like I was like, oh, I have a purpose. Like I have like somebody like loves me and wants me. And I feel like my mind is so clear right now. And my soul just felt so anchored. That's what I felt like when I got baptized. But then I still had a lot of mess to work through, because it doesn't mean you just get in a tank and you're like, boom, all of this stuff is just gone and away. But it started helping me heal the pain that I told you about at the beginning of the episode. Like that stuff was happening to me more than this piece. So now I had to almost take this piece and just be like, okay, live in this piece longer. It's like when I coach people to like be healthy, I'm like, let's just do that longer. You did great this week. Let's do that longer and not resort back to old ways. So that's the same thing with my faith journey. Other things that started really, like God really started showing me, was that there were certain shows or certain music and certain language that really did not resonate with me at all. I couldn't listen to specific music anymore like that I liked when I was younger. And not because I was better than anybody else. It was because I listened to what the words were speaking. It distorts like your view on things, and it makes you think that those things are okay, right? And so I started I remember asking someone to go watch like Bad Moms, and she said no. And I was like, she's boring. But now I know why she didn't want to watch that, because there's a lot of stuff in there that just sucks. Honestly, it sucks. It's not real life. I don't need to run away from my family. I don't need me time. I do need me time, but not like the way that the world wants it. And so those are the things that I started really becoming more aware of. I became more aware of like the things I was speaking over myself. Like people were nasty to me, but I was nasty to me because I didn't feel like I was like worthy, or, because things were so distorted in my mind. But I also felt a lot of shame. I felt a lot of those other like really negative things. So I would speak these negative things, even though I would try to be so positive. Like you got to imagine, like I was always encouraging others since I was little. I remember loving kids so much, like wanting to play with all the kids and hold all the babies, probably because I wanted to keep them safe and protect them. And then those are the things that like really, really stood out to me the most, especially in the beginning stages. And we'll get into some things down the road about like the different levels of marriage issues that Mike and I have faced, because our marriage is a testament to God. God saved our marriage. We'll dig into that in another episode, but God revealed himself to us. And since then, Mike and I have been able to walk together and learn so much and grow in our faith and raise two beautiful daughters in his image, because we are made in his image. So God healed those wounds. He came to me with this gentle, faithful, loving, whole, like complete, like help me to really, really, like really learn who I am. He completed me. He helped me to set boundaries too. And instead of like trying to dismiss that these things were real and that these things happened, he helped me to get really strong around all of those different areas and to break off some really strong strongholds that were in my family lineage, so that Casey and Bailey get to be free and never experience what I had to experience. And I can't promise them that they're going to have this like easy breezy life, because I do not believe that there's just this, oh, it's all good, like whatever. But I do believe that when you do walk with him, it's a lot easier for sure. So it helped me to become not just this person who's just in survival mode all the time. I actually have peace in my soul. Like leading up to me recording this episode, I was stirring a lot. I had to prepare for it. I had to go back and remember different things that I wanted to be able to share today. And there was a big attack on that, because I think from a spiritual perspective that the enemy was like, I don't want you to put this episode out, because this actually might help the kingdom. This might help Christians or people that are struggling to decide or whether or not they want to be a Christian. This message might help people free themselves from bondage. If I could be free from bondage, anybody can be free from bondage. There's nothing special about me. I just said yes. I said, let's spend some time together and reveal yourself to me, and let's get deep. Right? So I don't have to live in survival mode. I don't have to earn love. I don't have to do that anymore. I am wanted. I've received it. I've allowed him to come in and just hold my heart in his hands. And that's allowed me to show up differently as a wife. Like one thing you're going to learn about me is I love the Proverbs 31 woman. She is someone I love to study. If I could meet anyone, like, if you ask yourself this question, if you could meet anyone dead or alive, who would it be? I would want to meet her. Every morning I think about her. I think about, okay, it's dark. I'm taking care of my family, all these different things. And so being close to Jesus has allowed me to show up differently as a wife. It has allowed me to be a better and gentler mom. I love my daughters so much. I know we all say this, but I would do anything for my kids. Not just anything. I'm also there. I tell them I'm not your best friend, I'm your mom, but I love that we're friends. And it helps me to show up as a leader. As I coach people on their health journey, I know that I can help them figure out what food to eat, how to move their body. But none of this matters if we don't free our heart from all of this pain, because we hold on to sick bodies when we stay in that pain. I know I felt it before. I still struggle with it at times, and I'm still working on it. So I think that that's really what I want you to take away from today. Not the fact that I was hurt, but the fact that I have come out of this. And now with that story, I get to help others in their lives. And I think we all get to do that in our faith journeys. I've taken mine into my business because I know that God has gifted me the ability to help people on their health journey. I think it's a really important piece of the puzzle. I'll say, like, God is 3 in 1. You can't take one apart. You can't take Holy Spirit out of the equation. You can't take Heavenly Father out of the equation. You can't take Jesus out of the equation. They're 3 in 1. And I believe that about like what we're doing here with our health, like our mind, our body, and our spirit, that we need to connect those 3 and not just try to work on the body. That's why I think a lot of people really struggle. So what he did is he restored my identity. I no longer feel confused about who I am or whose I am. And I know there's a lot of people that are struggling with their identity. We see it more and more now. We see the pain that people are living in. And I've been there on journeys with other people that have walked out changing their identity. And I'm not judging any of them because I know that they have their own story. But I know what happened in mine is when I started walking with him, I was revealed a lot of truth. And that was what he taught me. He healed what trauma stole. And he stayed when others did not. And he saved my husband and me and my husband from a destructive marriage, from an unhealthy relationship. Even though we had lots of love, just remember, you can have tons of love, but you can still be hurt by those that love you. But he won't. And I know he won't. So God, thank you for never leaving us, even when we pushed you away. Thank you for meeting us in our survival, when we just felt like we just had to survive, and gently leading us back into your peace. And I pray for the person listening who has been hurt, who learned to just be strong because it wasn't safe to be soft. Remind them right now that they are not broken. Help them to heal what still hurts and restore what was stolen, and guide them into the identity you created them for. If this episode connected with you in a deeper way, I want you to know that you're not alone. God meets us in the places we think are too broken to touch. If you need prayer, encouragement, or just someone to listen, you're welcome to reach out to me. I don't have all the answers, but I definitely will meet you with care. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you. If you stayed right to the end, feel free to share this message with someone that you know might need to hear it today. Thanks for tuning in to Strength for Generations. If this episode encouraged you, it would be a blessing if you took a quick minute to leave a 5-star review. It helps more families hear this message and find hope for their health and faith journey. You can also share this episode to your stories and tag us. God might use your post to encourage someone who really needs it today. And if you're ready for your next step, go to bakerfamilyfitness.com and join the 5-day Move Mountains method. It's a powerful journey to renew your health, strength, and mind. It includes daily video teachings and workbooks. You're going to discover your why. We're going to get into daily habits and movement. You're going to learn about food and fuel. We're going to learn about perseverance and consistency, and most importantly, legacy and generational health. If you feel stuck or unsure of where to start, this is for you. And don't forget to eat steaks, lift weights, love Jesus, and keep doing it His way.